The coldest morning in 8 months has verified, and we're watching a large storm complex that will be moving inland off the west coast coming up on Wednesday. So let's take a look at the overall setup going forward over the next 7 days. And wow, look at that, folks. I mean, that was an impressive cold shot of air for the second week of November. That dug all the way down into the southeast. I mean, they had snowflakes flying as far south as in Atlanta. They had some snow into Charlotte yesterday. Even some reports along the coast. Even Myrtle Beach reported at least a trace of snow. So that was a pretty impressive shot. And that cold air sank once the sun set. And wow, numerous record lows unfolded. In fact, if we take a look at what all happened overnight and this morning, I just rewrote the record book. And in fact, some of those areas, like in Tampa, broke a 1892 record. I mean, 38 degrees for early November. That was an impressive shot of colder air, but it will be a distant memory going forward because we're going to be rapidly rebounding in a big way. If we look at the satellite picture, you can see where the cold front is. It's actually out there in the middle of the Atlantic, and that is moving out into the open waters. And further south, we still got hurricane season, but just an area of disturbed weather down there in the southern Caribbean. But besides that, we've got crystal blue skies where the Arctic air was in place. Now the south wind is going to be kicking in, and those temperatures are going to be rapidly rising in a big way, especially as we head into Thursday and Friday of the upcoming week. But if you turn your attention to the northeast, yes, we do still have some snow this morning. In fact, we've got some very heavy lake effect snow still unfolding across areas of New England and, upstate New York, getting back into Erie, Pennsylvania. They've had some impressive snowfall totals too. So not only did you have, a lot of snow around in and around Lake Michigan, but also those areas in and around areas of Erie, and then still continuing to snow with that northwest flow, which is pretty prevalent this time of year. But you can see the expansion, right? I mean, there's not much else going on, and we're still waiting for the storm complex that'll be coming on off the west coast. I think that gets going as we head into tomorrow afternoon, especially heading into Thursday. There is an impressive area of low pressure will be really gaining strength off the west coast and just pushing inland with a lot of high winds. It'll first impact areas of Washington and Oregon, especially Northern California. That will be likely on Wednesday, but as we move into Thursday, that'll be continuing to traverse down California and eventually heading into central and southern California as we head into the afternoon and evening time frame on Thursday. And it's going to bring a lot of snow with it too, along with in the Sierras. I mean, some of these are going to be pretty impressive above 5,000 feet. We're talking 1 to 2 feet plus in some of those spots. We do have a major risk for an impressive winter storm that will likely unfold. So not only is it going to be, bringing some very heavy rain along the coast, obviously that's going to dump a lot of snow in the mountain regions as well. And as this thing really cranks up, one of the things that changed from yesterday, it is drastically slowed down, which made it a much bigger system and a much larger system, and actually going to produce more rainfall for California into the desert Southwest as well. Because really it doesn't really come ashore. I mean, it just kind of hangs off the west coast and sending spokes of energy into Santa Barbara, back into areas of Los Angeles, eventually heading into San Diego. That'll be on Thursday. I think that's when you're likely going to get the heaviest rain, Thursday and into Friday. But the middle part of the country, you're going to be rapidly warm up in a big way. So where we were seeing temperature anomalies of 15 to 20 degrees, if not more, below average, it's completely the opposite coming up on Thursday and Friday. And easily some of these areas will pushing 80 degrees, if not a little bit higher. even as far north as Oklahoma City, they're forecasting 80 degrees coming up on Friday, potentially even into Saturday. But wow, look at those anomalies soar all the way into the Dakotas and to Canada. So plenty of warm air out ahead of it as the ridge starts to build back. And what will happen, this ridge is just so dominant that this vorticity that's off the west coast will try to push it, but it's just going to get blocked and kind of steered and being held back. And as long as it gets held back, you still remain warm on the middle part of the country, and you continue to remain wet off the west coast, and that will be a compounding effect with flooding rain. So you're likely going to have some flood watches and warnings by the time you head into Thursday, and especially into Friday. I mean, look at the setup on the latest European guidance, and it's just continuing to slow with every single model run between the American and the European guidance. So even on Friday afternoon, it's still essentially off the west coast. It really hasn't even moved inland yet, sending those spokes of energy and waves of precipitation inland into Southern California. And eventually this will head into Arizona during the day on Friday and heading into Saturday. So again, another spoke of energy. This is Saturday morning. So remember, if you recall, maybe just even as close as yesterday, this thing was supposed to be hanging out over Texas, but it's not even in New Mexico, and it's really not even hardly in Arizona. It's still in California, folks. That's how slow this system is, and that's what makes it such a kind of a bigger event, especially for those areas across the West, because it's a compounding effect. Remember, it's going to be moving inland on tomorrow. So you got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I mean, it really doesn't move anywhere for like 4 or 5 days, just dumping a lot of heavy rain. So I think even the Weather Prediction Center is kind of behind the game here with this latest update, or the newest update of what's to come with this storm, because the longer it hangs out, the more rain it's going to unfold. And I think that's what's going to happen. So we've got the system happening right now and into tomorrow that's still producing some lake effect snow. But other than that, it's pretty crystal clear and dry, and this is all the way through the rest of the week. Most of the action is all eyes, once this exits, will be on the west coast. That's going to be the only storm in town, while everybody else is under that ridge of high pressure, at least until late into the weekend into early next week, because most of the action, if not all the action, is going to be off the west coast. So even into Monday, folks, this again continues to back out west. I mean, it's still slower. This is the latest GFS solution as the ridge just tries to erode, but it really doesn't go anywhere. It's still fighting it every step of the way. So it kind of flattens out this jet, and what looked like a little bit more significant event for the Central Plains is kind of a non-event now, as with at least that first system for the weekend and heading into Monday, because the system has drastically slowed. And here's the latest, newest update, and in the afternoon update for the European guidance, it is still back over into New Mexico. And in fact, it's lifted even further north into the Four Corners region. So that will bring the precipitation further north. So it'll be impacting those areas across the Southwest into the Four Corners. But it looks like much of the Central Plains will continue to remain on the dry side, at least through Monday and potentially even into Tuesday with the latest data. So on the surface map, again, you're staying high and dry through Monday afternoon, and you're going to have that little vorticity, but it's not nearly as impressive once it moves inland. But, the damage has been done for California. I think you get some pretty significant rains from this setup, lighter amounts as you push inland into Arizona and New Mexico and the Utah and areas western Colorado. But the heat is continuing to unfold. So up with a slower system, you're not going to be able to cool off. You're going to be basically staying under that ridge of high pressure. So the temperature has kind of bottomed out this morning across the middle part of the country, and you're not really going anywhere for the next week. It's going to be an unseasonably warm conditions coming up for the middle part of November, while again most of the action under rain cooled air is much of Oregon, much of California, much of the desert Southwest into Arizona. that's where most of, if not all, the instability will be. So if you break it down just over the next 7 days, right? So this is Tuesday when I'm recording this video. This puts it through Tuesday with the latest European guidance. Again, puts most of, if not all, the action across the West Coast with some pretty healthy totals as well. As some of these could be some flooding rains to unfold across this region. A little lighter amounts as you swing through Arizona and Utah, and especially into western Colorado and New Mexico. But yes, once you get to Texas and Oklahoma and Kansas and much of Nebraska, it just continues to remain on the overall drier side because you'll be under that influence of the ridge of high pressure as well as into the southeast. And the GFS kind of has the same way. So more congruency with the model guidance is continuing to decrease the rain chances for the middle part of the country, but increase the probabilities of rain with a slower system and a larger system. A much stronger system for the West Coast will be a compounding effect with daily rains with Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, even going into Monday of next week for much of California and off the West Coast. So guys, I appreciate you watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch me next update where I protect you before and after storm.